It's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, joined by the 5-1 in the world, Jill Savinello.
Hello.
So I feel like it's been a hot minute since we've done these live stream podcast things, Jill.
It has been a hot minute. I've been traveling. You've been traveling.
Yeah. We've had stuff going on. All right, So let's see. Speaking of stuff, we're going to get to a few topics tonight. We have the American Made Index just came out, and talked to Jill about that. Jill did a backgrounder with Cars.com on that. And we're going to talk about Toyota Tundra. I kind of got embroiled last week in this dealers won't buy back Tundra thing that got turned into all sorts of different things. So I'm going to read a statement I put out and on a forum, and then we'll talk more about resale value information because I want to make sure it gets out to the public. And then Jill drove an odd, unique, weird. What'd you say it was? Interesting. Quirky pickup that I can't say the name of. So we'll get to that as well. Yeah. I can't. I'm trying.
Ineos, really? You can't say that?
I don't know. We talked about that in the video, the Grenadier video, and I just the Grenadier wagon. By the way, it's not an SUV; it's a wagon.
Station wagon, even.
We'll get to all that stuff tonight. So let's start with the recommended index. It's over on our website, pickuptrucktalk.com. Pickuptrucktalk.com. 3 words, folks. Easy as possible to get over there. Over here, left-hand side on my screen, maybe right-hand side on your screen. We'll open. All right. So American Index, how American is your truck? We have a few details on this, but before I dive deep into it, there was something you typed in here about why it matters. Gen Z cares about it or something?
Yeah, whatever the newest generation is, I don't even know. Is that not the millennials? There's a younger generation, so I guess it's Gen Z. Where do you go after Gen Z?
Every time somebody says Gen Z, every time I have to Google it. I'm like, who is that?
Yeah.
So Gen Z cares about Made in America.
And they actually said they would pay more for a vehicle that is made in America. And
yeah, right here I found it. Additionally, the publication research says Gen Z is going to pay more. Huh.
Yeah. So it's interesting, but this index always fascinates me because the truck that you think would dominate the list does not dominate the list. And the most American pickup truck for the 3rd year in a row is the Honda Ridgeline. Now, the Jeep Gladiator did jump up, I want to say 20 steps, and it made it into the top 10 this year. And then you have the Ram Classic 1500. But then you've got the Toyota Tundra. And then you've got some mid-sized trucks. And then you have the Toyota Tundra. And then the Hyundai Santa Cruz. So, you've got the Ram and the Ford and the Chevy full-size trucks kind of all pushed down towards the bottom of the truck list. And I just find this fascinating because you would think that, Silverado, F-150, those would be, some of the biggest out there, but they're not.
Yeah, what was it? Was that old song? It was like baseball, apple pie, Chevrolet, or something like that.
Yeah.
So a couple things up to note is that the Jeep Gladiator jumped all those spots because they dropped EcoDiesel. So now it doesn't have the Italian-built diesel, which this index looks at. There was 5 factors. I read your story and read the press release as well, but based on parts content, based on you have to have so many sales. That's why the Ford Ranger's not on this because the sales were too low. It's based on weight. So they've used the American ALLA thing, whatever. I don't forget this thing, but it's called American Alliance, whatever the deal is. They look at that list parts per vehicle and where they're from. And they don't, if you get over a certain weight limit, 8,500 pounds.
They're not required to do that.
Right. And so the heavy duty trucks are not on the list. So I think it's interesting as well. The Toyota Tundra I thought was interesting because it's only built in North America, which is Honda Ridgeline's only built in North America. So it's kind of those things. Canada, isn't Canada and Mexico part of that as well? So they can do, but they don't do parts content. Are you having all these emails over there? What are you doing?
I know. I just closed out of my email and I'm I shut down my phone. It seems like everybody automatically knows I'm doing a live stream. They're like, let's call, let's text, let's make a whole bunch of noise on Jill's computer. So I'm trying to turn all that stuff off. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, the thing that I got confused was you said Roanoke, Indiana for the Silverado and Sierra. You are actually correct. I think of it as Fort Wayne, but actually it's Roanoke. It's you're actually correct. I was like, what? I've been to Fort Wayne Assembly. It's Fort Wayne Assembly, but it's the bigger town
Roanoke
in the area.
Suburb of Fort Wayne or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something like that. So so there you go. So that is the interesting list. The missing trucks that we talked about. The Toyota Tacoma is not on this list because it's exclusively built in Mexico, which excludes it from consideration. And the Ford Maverick is also built in Mexico. So that's just the way that the American-made index comes out. They do this, about 20 years of this index, something like that. And that's excluded. Ford Ranger was excluded because it didn't have enough sales.
It only sold 2,000 units in the first quarter of this year.
Because they were transitioning over to the new, and they had all those. Remember, because we did the walk around the Ford Ranger like last May, just now coming to marketplace. So there you go. There's your fighting words. There's your 4th of July fighting words. We seem like to do this every year on 4th of July and get people all fired up in the comments.
Yeah, well, and so what I find really interesting is, I feel like this is a game of would you rather. And usually the would you rather is like, would you rather eat snake guts or a live cicada? 2 horrible options. But I don't know if this is much better, but would you rather buy an American nameplate, because it's an American company, or would you rather produce more jobs in America from a foreign automaker? Because, one of the things they take into consideration with the Toyota Tundra or the Hyundai Santa Cruz or, whatever these foreign trucks are, is how many jobs they're creating in the United States. And, some of these trucks with the suppliers, with the build location, even though some of these trucks are American, they're not creating American jobs. And furthermore, like, this is one of the interesting tidbits I never really paid attention to before, but during the briefing that they did yesterday, they specifically brought up the GMC Sierra and Chevy Silverado, and that not all of the trucks are built in Roanoke, people. So you could actually be buying it. You'd think you're doing a good thing by buying a truck that was built in America. But unless you look at the VIN number specifically and maybe go to a VIN decoder, you could actually be buying a truck that was built in Mexico or built in Canada. You're not buying the specific truck that was built in Indiana. And so, the waters are just so flippin' muddy. This is such a global economy these days. And so it's like, do you want to provide American jobs? Then this American index list is actually pretty interesting. But, would you rather buy from an American company that's giving jobs to foreign workers?
Yeah, I want to say with the Silverado and Sierra, I'm not clear anymore. It used to be that the extended cabs and like other cabs were built in Mexico and crew cabs were built in Roanoke. That's the way it had been for years, for whatever reason. That's what they did. So, yeah, I don't know. And you can. So Gene says you used to be able to check the sticker on the door jamb to see where it's made, and you can. There's still Ford does this, GM does this. They usually have but I hate using always, but I seem to recall that most of the GM vehicles I've driven lately, the trucks, have built probably in Fort Wayne stickers on them.
Yeah, and I know also one of the aspects of the American-made index is Patrick Masterson, who's the guy who does this list, actually goes to dealerships and does an audit of the vehicles on the lot to verify, the VIN versus the sticker versus, all of the things. So, there's a lot, like, I know somebody on here called it a scam list, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. And obviously I'm not doing the work, so I can't verify it, but I trust cars.com and I know they do a lot of work.
Yeah. So your job is to go open up the doors, look for the build information and verify that. Okay. I guess there's a job for everything, right?
But in addition to compiling information, looking at all the data, this is like a month-long project where I think that's all he does, because they collect the data in May, because it's January, February, March. So maybe like they collect the data in April or May from the first quarter sales to see what qualifies. And then they begin this process of culling the herd and figuring out what qualifies and then pushing the information out.
Yeah, put it in the comments below if you listen to this podcast later on, send me an email, whatever. Do you guys care about this stuff? I will speak for my business to say, as a business owner, I don't have the luxury to care about this stuff. I do like buying stuff built in America, but I have to buy vehicles based on the channels and views and what we're going to cover this year. So I don't really take it in consideration. There was a big push to buy in America. We used to buy made in America stores, and I still would like to buy more stuff in America. Just you look at clothing, for example. Clothing, just the manufacturers in the United States going to compete with the cheap Chinese and sweatshop labor. So it's interesting. I don't know. I'd like to see what you guys think about this stuff as far as that goes. Whether or not it would be interesting to you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a would you rather? Would you rather create more jobs in America by buying a truck that was created by Toyota, or would you rather support an American quote unquote automaker that building their trucks someplace else?
Yeah, and as Gene points out, he was kind of the way he was bred into him. He grew up in Detroit. I lived in Michigan for years in graduate high school in Michigan, and that was definitely the way. I mean, there was a time period that if you drove a foreign built vehicle, you couldn't park in certain people's driveways. Like it was, it was like no go zone. And it's that the state is changing slowly. You still, like I saw a Subaru there one time, and I was like, wow, look at that. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, I haven't seen anything lately about that as far as that much pride.
Yeah, well, I know. I think it's still true. It's certain automakers. Like if you are working for Stellantis, if you own a non-American vehicle, like or one of the other automakers, you have like a separate parking lot, like 5 miles away that you have to park in.
Yeah, you take a shuttle over. Yeah, there are some manufacturers I know when you go to their plants that you cannot, if you buy something else. Sorry, I got to put time out for a minute. If you buy something else, you got to take a shuttle ride over. Like that's just what it's got to be. I don't know. It's interesting list. Every year we do it. Every year I'll probably do a TikTok or something on it and give more exposure to it. But yeah, it's interesting. I want to get to one more interesting thing. So let me do a whole backstory here and make sure I walk through this. Right. Make sure I walk through this. So it was actually last Tuesday night. I was getting ready to go to an event, and there was I had an email from a gentleman who has been emailing me about his issues with this Tundra, and he had said that not a Ford dealer? Excuse me, that a GM dealer turned him down for getting his truck taken in to get resale. They literally said, "We don't want your truck." And so I was like, well, that's interesting. So I went on Facebook and the forum tundras.com, which has been good to me. So give a shout out to tundras.com. And I asked, I said, is anybody else having this experience? Right. So the rule of journalism school, if I remember, I'm not always good about remembering stuff, was that if you have one source, you got one source. That's not really a story. If you get two sources, yeah, you're doing better. You get three sources, and it's like, hold on a minute. There's three sources. That's three people confirmation, and I have three other dealerships that are giving confirmation. So I'm like, I literally had six sources. And I'm like, okay, so I did a video and I did a website post and a TikTok. I think I did all three things. And I literally said, hey, this is what I got. I got three people that said that they weren't able to trade in their truck, that the dealerships told them no. And there was a Toyota dealer in the mix. There was a GM dealer in the mix. I mean, there's different dealers, different situations. So that story runs. And I literally next morning got up at 6 o'clock. No, actually, it was worse than that. I got up at 4 o'clock, left the house by 4:30, got down to South Denver by 8 o'clock, barely made the event, 4-hour drive. That was fun. And then I went up in the mountains of Frisco, Colorado. So I was up in the mountains driving vehicles all day. And I get back to my room, and holy cow. I thought it was just, hey, here's information you guys need to know. If you have a Tundra, maybe you want to look out for this stuff. I thought maybe check a different dealer or whatever, but here's the experiences of three owners. Nothing any of it. And there was other outlets on YouTube that made stories out of them. The Drive did a story, Jalopnik did a story. There was our friend Allison did a story of Car Scoops. And I'm just like, holy cow. And then the face, was it? Auto Biscuit. Yeah. Auto Biscuit, the story. There was Motor Biscuit. Sorry, Motor Biscuit.
I'm like, let's get it right.
Motor Biscuit. There was Facebook posts calling me a liar. There's Facebook posts saying I had the same problem. Tim experienced, these owners experienced. My dad. It was so funny. It's like somebody's like, "This is a lie. We're taking trade-ins right now." And the comment below it was like, "I just got told by a dealer." Like it was like back and forth. And I'm like, wow, I did not mean to sparkle this stuff. And I apologize for creating drama. That wasn't obviously the point. The point was I had what I thought was a pretty solid news story. And so the result of this news story has become that there are a lot of Tundra owners currently who are dumping their truck as best they can. They are going to dealerships and getting whatever trade-in amount they can. So the story is that most dealers, not all dealers, most dealers want to sell used vehicles as certified pre-owned. They make more money off this stuff. But I'm still a little unclear about this. I've searched quite a bit. I don't believe there's a federal law against selling a vehicle as an open recall, as a used vehicle. I do believe that certain states have laws and certain companies have law. And from what I can understand is that Toyota has a policy that you cannot sell certified pre-owned vehicles with an open recall. Again, I want to be very clear. Certified pre-owned vehicles. They can sell used vehicles, but not certified pre-owned vehicles, okay, with a recall. And that's why dealers are saying, I don't want this because there is no fix for this recall. It could take 6 months, 8 months. I'm hearing all sorts of stuff like new engine rebuilds. I mean, time-consuming stuff. And so that's where things had kind of stopped. But owners are able to go in and get a low ball, what I would call wholesale, but people have said that's not the right term. I've had dealers tell me it's wholesale. I've had dealers tell me it's not wholesale numbers. Whatever. Low ball number so the dealer can sell it at auction. The idea here is the dealer can sell it at auction, and another dealership could buy it that wants to sit on it, or another dealership could buy it in Canada. In Canada, there's different laws, different rules, and so they can get rid of it that way. So these owners are losing upwards between $15,000 to $20,000 in just 2 years of ownership to dump their trucks, because there's a lot of fear about driving through the desert if you're camping or something, and your engine goes blah, 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 and now you have this broken down truck. And so that's kind of where things are at this moment. I've been looking at resale numbers on KBB. I've been looking at resale numbers throughout the day, and there is no update on resale numbers because it's still too new. But I wrote this. We got called blog spam, and I kind of took offense to that today. So this is a post on tundras.com. I just want to read it and put it in public record. I said a few thoughts. I said, I find it interesting the number of comments I'm seeing from people happy they got a trade-in deal. They state the deal was a loss of $15,000 to $20,000 from what they paid for the truck. I realize the market has changed and times are different, but that's a lot of coin. I haven't lost that much in any of the trucks I've bought, including the 2022 Tundra. I bought $59,000 and sold a dealer for $53,000. And that's a true truck. It's on the channel. We did a bunch of videos on this truck. I think the criticism over the blow up over the no trade-ins is valid. Don't edit this, Jill. This is me writing. I seriously didn't foresee that post causing so much angst. Also, I didn't expect people to not really understand this doesn't impact every dealer nor every customer. I had several owners reach out to me in frustration. I was shocked to hear they were flat out turned down on a trade-in. That's interesting news. I didn't expect that to apply to everyone's situation. And I'm as frustrated as many of you are that some outlets are treating this as a joke. These are real people who are dealing with this BS. Frankly, I was also disappointed in other Tundra owners who could have helped and instead decided to call me out, or worse, call these owners liars. Why not say, damn, that sucks, man. Have you tried this dealer? Create a list of dealers offering good trade-ins, be a good human. In hindsight, I should have worded it more clearly that this was the experience of 3 different customers and not the de facto experience of everyone. Apparently, I need to spell these things out these days, spell such things out these days. As I said in the follow-up video, which I did a truck news recap on Friday, a couple days later, talking about it, I expect Toyota to weather this storm. I think owners need to make their own decisions on whether they trust their truck or not. If they don't, expect us to get a low-ball trade-in offer or get turned down completely. I think both could happen, especially with the unknown over the safety recall. Safety recalls in quotes. If it does happen, shop around. Maybe you'll find another dealer who can offer you more for your trade and or try to trade in a truck with some incentives. The truck market is getting pretty flooded. You might be able to move some negative equity into a new truck and soften the blow. I do think safety is a key word. I've been to the engine plant in Alabama, and I'm not sold on hybrid engine blocks being built on separate lines. I certainly didn't see that when I was there. Granted, I wasn't looking that closely at the line at the time. I think it's a wording of motive power that's in the safety recall. That was me thinking that hybrids would be included once a new, more encompassing recall is posted. They didn't put a safety recall on a hybrid because it can move forward under its own power. They didn't say anything, there was nothing wrong with it. I certainly don't think this is the last recall on this powertrain. I believe Toyota is being honest. That defect report, which we did a video on, was shocking in its depth. I've looked at a few others, and they are scant to say the least. Toyota manned up the problem, explained why it took so long to detail, and is working on developing a complete fix. Finally, yes, I do think some trucks will require a full engine swap and not just rebuild. My hunch is that it will come down to oil analysis like they diagnose the problem. They will extend the warranty like Hyundai is doing. Hyundai is currently going through some engine replacement warranty stuff right now too. Now, we are also I got yelled at by some people. I posted the parts list from a Toyota dealership for how much these Toyota engines are going to cost to get changed out with new engines. It is $24,000 for a new engine plus $6,000 on labor. It's $30,000. Dealers have gone on Facebook and said, I've seen some dealers say it's $40,000. This is not inexpensive, and we have 100,000 trucks that are possibly under the safety recall. And I think when we see the fix come out, if it's not a full engine swap, which we're already seeing dealers do, dealers are already swapping out these engines or these trucks for new engines. They're already doing this. That's happening. And so I think we're going to have this is going to be a bigger issue. I think it's going to keep going. I do see hybrids being part of this, and I do see resale value dropping on these trucks. There's a lot of concern right now going on, and there's a lot of people that are really concerned about 2024 models. We're seeing a lot of Facebook posts and forum posts about 2024 models having some issues. So I think this is a big deal. And what I'm saying is this is just consumer information. Yes, Elliot, there is some panic. Now we know we must panic as the internet. I get it. People are going to panic about it being internet, but I'm just putting information out there, and that's how I came across the story. That's the news I put out, and that's the resale value concerns that I would have as an owner. Okay, that's all I got. Feel free to jump in at any moment.
Can I just say that "and or" is very irksome to me
okay.
when you use that in a sentence?
That's all you had?
I stopped right there. No, so here's the thing. I don't think you did anything incorrect in your story. You said these three owners are having this problem. Buyer beware, heads up. And, some dealers are saying yes, some dealers are saying no. Okay, yay, you. We can, if you're going to accept trade-ins, hey, by the way, so-and-so dealership is accepting trade-ins. Go see him.
Yeah.
Drive to North Carolina or wherever it is and take your truck to him because he's accepting it. Until he isn't, because everybody's going to go to him because he's accepting the trade-ins. But I think you were in the right. I think that people who are calling you a liar, I mean, that's like saying the three people who were turned down for their trade-ins are liars. You're just reporting a story. And unfortunately, that tends to mean, as the messenger, you get killed. Don't kill the messenger.
Yeah, I thought about that quote from Moneyball that I've told you many different times. The first one through the door always ends up bloody. And I definitely felt that this weekend. I was like, I definitely felt like that it was a big issue. So Michael Laporte he says, your biggest problem was conflating a manufacturing issue defect with a dealer's decision to take a loss of potential trade-in. You can't blame dealership for that when Toyota won't backstop. I don't know. I mean, I guess I just was reporting the news, guys. That's all I was trying to do. And I'm going to stand by our story because again, these people reached out to me and somebody challenged me like, so did you call every dealership in the country? I'm like, I had an hour to do the story. Like, I don't have time to call every dealership in the country and ask them questions because I'll get 1,000 different answers. And then the story becomes diluted. And that's kind of not my job either. It's my job to just report the news I have. So yeah, that's what I wanted to put out for that. And so if you guys want to talk more about it, it's on the forums and different places. I'm not hiding from it. You guys can find me. It's always fun. I love reading stuff where people call me out on something and they don't think I'm gonna read it. I love doing that. Like, oh, by the way, let me quote that. Reply back to you.
I know. I just in case you're new to this channel, Tim and I read your comments. Yeah. We read all of your comments. There was a video that we did on the Ford Raptor versus Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road versus the Colorado ZR2 Bison, and somebody said, "Jill, let the expert drive," and I was like, "So let's define expert," because I've competed in 2 off-road competitions, training for a third. Is that not expert?
Yeah, I
was just like, okay.
Well, the thing is,
expert is relative. I compete in off-road competitions.
And I heard that comment, and I was like, you have to understand, that day, I started driving, and then I started doing my video thing, whatever, and I was like, this actually works out better if Jill drives. And Jill's a very competent driver. She's done the off-road rallies. And I was just, I know what I wanted for the video. I knew what shots I wanted for the video. And so it was easier for me to get those shots and have Jill drive than it was for me to drive. And I've driven them and Jill's driven them. It didn't really matter who drove. I wanted the video to be good. I wanted to get the B-roll, because when you're by yourself, B-roll is background roll. It's the image on the screen of the truck driving through the water, right? I took that footage. Well, if both of us are behind the wheel, who takes the footage, right?
And I would much rather have you stand in the mud.
Yeah. So and I was fine. I had some shoes I could wash off, and I was fine. So it was much better for me to get out there and do it. So that's the thing. People were really upset about that, and I was like, why? Like I really knew what the video wanted to be. I knew what the B-roll I wanted. I wanted to get out there and shoot it. So, and that's how it worked out that day.
Well, he was just making a point that I'm a girl and therefore not an expert. And I'm just like, this is what I got for you. Whatever. Yeah. But the point of all that was, because I completely changed the subject, we read your comments.
Yes, we read them all. So let me. Somebody asked, how do I like the new Ram Lone Star that you bought? I didn't buy it actually. I'm gonna not take delivery of that one. And so I'm not buying a one. The one you may be referencing is the one we had for press loan. So there's a video of a Ram Lone Star that we had for 7 days. So that's when you see videos on this channel of a review, we get it for 7 days and we drive it and then we give it back. So that one they gave back like 2 weeks ago, I think. It was interesting at the event I went to. Nobody was there for Ram. The PR person was there for the company, but nobody was there for Ram specifically. And so I ended up giving like demonstrations on how to check the oil and where the dipstick wasn't and what the truck had and what truck didn't have. So that was, and finally the press people were there, were like, yes, Tim, we know it doesn't have a dipstick. I'm like, apparently 3.4 million people plus the million people on Facebook now do. So we have almost 5 million people have seen that video. So yes, ask me questions. I know to check it. I know how to do that stuff. Those things happen. We go down a rabbit hole. Like Jill went down a rabbit hole. This segue is awesome. About Apple CarPlay in GM vehicles, or the confusion over it. So
yeah, I can't let it go. I feel like there's a dead horse and I'm like, bam, bam, right. Bam. I can't let it go. I just can't.
So so Jill, for those who don't know, can you give us the backstory on this situation?
Yeah, so General Motors made a decision, I feel like it was about a year ago, to drop Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in their electric vehicles. So not all of their vehicles, just their electric vehicles. And so there's been some confusion because there were some electric vehicles that were released last year that have Apple CarPlay. So the work truck version of the Silverado EV that was released last year has Apple CarPlay. I think there are some Blazers maybe that were released last year, EVs that have Apple CarPlay. Cadillac Lyriq that was released last year has Apple CarPlay. Anything new coming out now with the new operating system does not have Apple CarPlay. And everybody, like I talked to Sam Abulasamid. I'm so completely messing up his name, but I talked to him and he was just like, well, yeah, it doesn't have Apple CarPlay, but the system, the Google operating system is great. It's perfect. You don't need Apple CarPlay. And I was like, okay. So I hadn't been in a GM vehicle that didn't have Apple CarPlay, and we were at the Silverado EV Equinox EV media drive, and I was like, I'm going to spend time with this vehicle. I'm going to figure this out. And I played with it by myself. I couldn't figure it out. So I sat down for 45 minutes with a product expert who walked me through the system, and I asked questions. And I said, but can you access text messages? And they're like, oh yeah, if somebody sends you a text message while you're in the car, it shows up right here. And I'm like, no, you actually didn't hear my question. Can you access your text messages? So in Apple CarPlay, if you have text messages, you just hit on your little text message icon and you can see all the text messages you have, and you can click on one and it'll read your text message to you. If you go into the vehicle without having received a text message, you can't access it, or with having received. So if I have 4 text messages, I get into the vehicle, there's no way for me to access those past text messages. I can say, hey, Siri, read me my past text messages, and okay, it'll do that. But it's one of those things where it's not easy. It's not intuitive. So I spent like 2 hours in this Equinox EV playing around with the system, trying to figure it out. Then the next day we were in the Silverado EV and I spent like another hour trying to figure out the system. So this is like 4 hours now that I've been in GM EV vehicles that didn't have Apple CarPlay trying to figure it out. And then we were at the Midwest Automotive Media Association Spring Rally and I got into the Blazer EV and played with it some more. So I've spent a lot of time trying to figure this out, and I don't like it. I'm not like that. I mean, it is what it is, and there are going to be people who are Android users, like my husband. He's a dyed-in-the-wool Android user who will say, "Don't flipping care." I'm perfectly fine without having Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. But for somebody like me who, like, I get into a car, like I'm spending 3 hours in the car driving down to my mom's house. And the first thing I do is I listen to all my voicemail messages and I like go through all my text messages. It's something that I can kind of multitask and while I'm still paying attention to driving. And you can't do that. You can't do that without Apple CarPlay. So I don't know. So I did a video where I walk you through the system. I walk you through how the Google operating Goober system. Yeah, that's it. Goober system. The Google operating system operates and what you can do and not do if you have an iPhone. And I mean, the reaction I've gotten is very mixed so far. Like Tom Appel, who is, I do the Apple CarPlay or the Car Stuff podcast. And we had this conversation on Monday during that. And he was just like, my daughter doesn't use Apple CarPlay. And I'm like, why? And if she's not using Apple CarPlay, I think she's just not setting up her phone properly, frankly. If she doesn't want her text messages to be public, well, okay, don't have your text messages read while you're in the car. And by the way, put a do not disturb on your phone while you're driving.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you a little backstory, a little bit. There's some comments here. So Apple CarPlay basically mimics part of your phone screen onto the infotainment screen. It allows you to play podcast, Gene. So she could listen to an audiobook through the podcast button. And I'm telling you what, Jill probably has the most organized screen I've ever seen because she's got folders and playlists and stuff. And I was like, I actually went home and was like doing the playlist stuff. No, Kevin, was Tim the one behind the camera yawning? No, I was behind the camera just shaking my head. So I helped Jill film a lot of this stuff, and it's bad. Like I was just like, I'm glad I did it with Jill because I have an iPhone myself, and I would have given up. And so now I actually understand the system better because she walked through the details. The other thing you understand is she did this video, worked on this video 3 different times. The reason why was she was doing TikToks and getting feedback from Chevrolet communications team. So she had to go, every time they tell her something, she'd go back and try the system again and try to verify or not verify what they said was actually correct. And so there was a lot of back and forth. GM has a lot of comments to say.
They're not terribly happy with me. If I
yes. If I created the problem with Toyota with the dealer not buyback story, Jill created a problem with GM and the Apple CarPlay situation. And it is. I'm going to tell you right now, I think everybody in Chevrolet Communications and GMC Communications and the guy who made the decision is going to watch Jill's video because it's difficult to say the least. And so, yeah.
I mean, I'm still not used to it. I mean, maybe it gets better, maybe it gets easier, but I love Apple CarPlay. And again, there's somebody in here who said, the Appleverse is overrated. Okay. I'm sure it is for some people, but I'm on an iMac right now. My laptop is a Mac Air. I use the iPhone. Like I am in the Appleverse and it works for me and I love it. And I watch the video because if you don't have an Android phone, like it's not easy. It's not user friendly. And I mean, you can work around, you can find ways to make it work. Somebody asked if there's Bluetooth. There is Bluetooth and you can connect your phone via Bluetooth and you can say the words, hey, SIRI and have it like my phone's right here and I don't need asking me questions. But you can say that and you can get it to do some things that way. But it doesn't do everything. And it's very cumbersome and it's not as easy as just driving and like swiping and like hitting a button, and to me, Apple CarPlay is very intuitive, very easy to use. And I've so far would find myself picking up my phone while I'm driving to be able to do the things that I want to do. And that to me defeats the purpose of the system. And at one point, like, I had connected my phone and I was trying to text message my husband, and the system kept spelling his name wrong. And then because his first name is John and he doesn't spell it John, he spells it Jon. And so it was trying to spell it John. And so it was like, oh, did you mean to message John Vincent? And I'm like, no, I did not. Did you mean to mention, text message John Davis? And I'm like, no, I did not. And it went through all the Johns in my phone except for my husband. And I'm like, no, that is not. And then like it misspelled. So he and I don't have the same last name. And so it was misspelling his last name. And I'm like, what? Because finally I was like, just use the last name. And I was like yelling at the system, and like it could understand my frustration and anger. But it would not, Google would not text message my husband. Now, if I said, hey, SIRI, text message my husband, it would do it that way. But I couldn't do it through Google.
Well, the thing that people are in the comments, you may think that CarPlay is not a big deal and who cares about this stuff. But there was an auto news story that came out same day, like within 24 hours of Jill's story. Roughly a third of car buyers say absence of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto would be a deal breaker. A third of consumers. And that most don't, what's to say, my screen set up, most don't want a native system. They don't want to deal with your native system. I'll stop myself there. They want to plug in their phone and they want to CarPlay. And this is what CarPlay looks like. And they just want to use the buttons. CarPlay works and they don't want to use your native systems. And I've seen some pushback from journalists. There's a rather spirited exchange going on in our private Facebook group. And people are mad because in the native system, sometimes you have to go back to the home page of native system or press an app, the link in here for your vehicle. So see how it says Porsche? If you guys watching this on the screen, it goes podcast Porsche there in the corner. That would tell me this is a Porsche vehicle, and you got to press Porsche to go to the native screen to do, like, say you want to use the native screens.
Or look at the little side menu there. There's a little home.
There's a side menu. So yeah, I mean, there's
the Apple screen.
People, I think the pushback is people just don't get it all. But yeah, this is what the Apple screen looks like. And Jill uses her Apple iPhone when she's walking, when she's around the house, whenever. So she's got podcasts set up. She's got music. She's got things organized the way she wants it. So she gets into a GM vehicle, and now this all goes out the out of the water a little bit. She can't use any of this stuff. And so, yeah, the story says they've rejected Apple CarPlay and Android Auto at their own peril. Roughly a third of customers refuse to buy a car that lacks smartphone integration. And that is 30% of global electric buyers and 35% of global internal combustion engine buyers. And so what's interesting about the story is not only the story, but it's GM's doing it in the EV vehicles, which to me are very tech-savvy people who would want this in the vehicles. So it's quite a conundrum.
Yeah, and I mean, so here's the other part of the story. The Google system in the GM EVs is free for 8 years, but the Wi-Fi hotspot is not. And so I feel like if you want, and I have to dig into this more because somebody actually just made that comment in that spirited debate that we're having in the Automotive Media Professionals group, is that you get access to this operating system for 8 years for free. Okay, but what happens after 8 years? And then they haven't set prices yet because they're going to wait and see. But the Wi-Fi hotspot, I think, is only active for like 3 months or 3 years. And so how does that affect the system? And I need to dig into that because I don't know. And like, I mean, I want to use this for free. Why can't I use this for free? Just give it to me for free.
Well, and I remember the conversations that Chevrolet Communications was having with you in different places. They were making the argument that it's not about profit. And it's not about it. What was this? It was about, was it customer convenience or something? They were trying to make it out to be like all the reasons they gave you were quickly dismissed as not reasonable reasons.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm just like, yeah. And Gene was asking how I did not punch the screen. It was hard. And you know, I mean, thankfully, much of the time that I was trying to use the system, I was alone. Otherwise, Tim may have been the one who was punched.
Yeah, I was like, I'll see you later. I'm gonna go find something up right now. Bye.
Bye. But no, I already have all of the stuff that I want organized the way I want it on my phone. Like, why do I have to set up in 2 places? I don't want to do that. I just want to use my phone, and I want to be able to access my text messages and my voicemails easily, not by and if you watch the video, like, it was funny. There was an awkward moment where I was like, hey, SIRI, read my text messages. And like,
oh, yes.
It was just like, okay, that's awkward.
You have to explain why it was awkward, because that was hilarious.
Well, so my toilet in my bathroom was broken, and it was like a text conversation between my husband and my landlord. And I'm like, I can't stop this. All right. Yeah, thanks. You know way too much about my life right now.
Kelvis says, I don't think this is an issue. I would say once you use Apple CarPlay and then it's taken away, you'll start realizing how much is an issue. Like, it's easier. It makes more sense. I remember the Toyota Tundra had one of the big complaints people had with that new redesign was that they took away pinch to zoom on the Apple CarPlay map. Somehow they disabled that, but on their navigation they could use it. And that was, I mean, you guys may say that's not an issue. Who cares about that? Let me tell you, from our vantage point, when you guys read your comments, it's a huge issue. I saw comment after comment, and I see people trying to jailbreak basically the Tundra system. They want to figure out a way to get rid of the native system, to do their own thing. There's actually a company out there that's selling ways to watch Netflix movies on your big entertainment screen, which I don't do that. And they send me demos. I'm like, I'm not taking this demo. I don't want that's unsafe. And they're like, oh, it's only for when you're parked. Well, come on, guys. We don't need to see that kind of screen. I don't know. It just seems unsafe to me, so I'm not going to do anything about it. But this stuff is a new frontier. You know, I know a lot of customers want to talk about which engine I get, which transmission I should get. Well, a lot of trucks these days are pretty good. The new frontier is how it works with your cell phone, how easy it is to integrate with your life, and that is the new frontier for all vehicles. And we see that all the time, and you see it in JD Power surveys, consumer reports. They're starting to knock manufacturers for liability because their phone won't connect. Yeah. That's how big this issue is becoming. And again, I don't think if you haven't experienced that, I don't think you're gonna what we're talking about yet. So just go experience it. When is your new Ram coming? I'm not doing the Bighorn. I'm not going to take that one. I was told that I heard through the grapevine that they're probably pushing that back a little bit. It's probably going to be October, November is my hope at this point. I'm hoping by year end. I got to buy something by year end. I made a mistake last year by not buying something. So I'll have something in the driveway, but yeah, I'm just waiting impatiently. I really want that full size truck right now. All right, so let me see. Oh, the thing, the
thing you can't say.
The Ineos thing.
Yeah, as I'm doing your namaste, I'm still trying to calm down from the Apple CarPlay conversation.
I tell you what, we both have had a situation tonight where we've had I thought it was going to be a spirited live stream, and I knew it was, and this was happening. So let's go to the website, pickuptrucktalk.com for the third time. Made it as easy as I possibly could. I did the Acadia drive, which by the way, I towed with that, and I looked around the YouTubes as far as the thumbnails. I was the only guy done that. So we should watch either the video or read the story. There was a very spirited moment where I probably had to go change my underwear because it was rather extreme braking. But we have this Grenadier Quartermaster. Wow, is that a name? That is like a Scrabble word all day long.
Quartermaster. I feel like I should be talking in a British accent.
Right.
A very bad British accent.
So Jill I don't know why I gotta change. We have to get the IT team. We have some few issues here. You start talking immediately about I want to find a different picture of. Here we go. The steering, which is, by the way, I'm so glad you said what the name was, because somebody had said it. Recirculating ball
steering.
Right.
Yeah. And I had to repeat that in my head 50 times, and I kept messing it up. I did a video, and I was like, it's recirculating ball steering.
So it's a different type of steering, which meant to, when you hit a rock, it doesn't jar your fingers. Is that what I got from the video?
Well, so So once upon a time, I think most of the steering in like off-roady type vehicles and trucks was this recirculating ball steering. And it is a more robust system, which means it's less likely to break. But also, if you are driving in an off-road situation, and your rock, your tire hits a rock and the steering wheel, in a rack and pinion system would, in this, it just kind of, goes a little bit. So it like protects your hands a little bit, but it's also a more durable type of steering, which means that it's not going to break. But the trade-off is that it requires a lot more input from you as a driver. And so you find yourself like turn a corner, it's like, it's not just you can't do like lock to lock is not this. It's literally so it's different. It was very, very different.
So what the other thing was different was, and you didn't get this in the camera as much as I wanted you to, but how'd you close the doors?
Oh yeah, so the other thing that's really kind of quirky about this vehicle, as well as the station wagon, which is the SUV, is they have double sealed doors. And so I found myself a lot of times I would just shut the door and I would start driving and I would see an error alert. And I was like, but I shut the door. You really have to thwap the door shut because, the double seal, which it has nearly 3 feet of fording capability. So the water is going to come up over the door sill. And so you want that double seal so you're not like wet footed. So very, very, very tough shut. And I messed that up pretty much every time I got in and out of the vehicle.
So a little backstory, you guys don't know about this vehicle or this brand because I didn't know about it either. Apparently, they're one of the largest chemical.
They're the third largest chemical company. Ineos is the third largest chemical plastics plant, like in the world globally.
Yeah, and there's a whole like presentation. I usually don't look at that stuff, but this one I actually looked through quite a bit. So base comes down to this: this billionaire owner loves Land Rover Defender. Land Rover wants to sell him the tools. He says, "Screw it, I'm building my own." Land Rover sues him. He wins in court. He moves forward. He builds the wagon and the truck you see. It's basically a collection of parts. There's a BMW powertrain with even the BMW shifter. It looks like an airplane inside the cabin, all these knobs and stuff like this. But it's a solid body on frame, 4-wheel drive, mechanical vehicle, very mechanical, very robust. The billionaire is basically an overlanding kind of enthusiast, traveler, adventure kind of guy. So he built the vehicle for himself. The issues coming down, we're not going to get many of them. About 15,000 or so the first year. They're kind of ramping up production. We also have the chicken tax on this because it's not built in the United States. Some outlets made a big deal about this, and it is a considerable deal. It's 25% tariff on trucks not built in North America, which includes Mexico, Canada, and the United States. And so the price, you can see the price point. The price point for the wagon's like 72,000, and the truck's like 87,000, something like that.
And the 87 price point, I should point out, is not the vehicle that I drove.
No,
the $7,000 price point is for like a stripped down kind of version of the truck.
Right. So stripped down, and then the pricing, you were 102 or something.
Like more than 105, and that was without the destination fees because I couldn't find the destination fees. They didn't have.
I don't think they have it announced yet for destination fees, and then they have a whole like catalog full of accessories you can buy and things to customize it. I mean, I thought this was just interesting, and they talked about service. If you need service, they're basically like, look, everything's easy to fix. Just get some wrenches. If you need more than that, call us. We'll come to you or something. I mean, so
the idea is right now they have 20 dealers in the United States, and ironically, there happens to be one on the North Shore of Chicago, which I may have to go pay them a visit. I'm very curious.
Right.
But if you are within range of a dealership, they would prefer you to take the vehicle to the dealer to get it serviced, but you won't be breaking warranty if you take it someplace else. As long as it's a certified mechanic, you're not going to be breaking warranty by getting it serviced. However, if you do have some warranty repairs that need to be made, you would need to reach out to the dealer you bought it from and have a conversation with them about how you're going to get the vehicle to them. And the guy who is in charge of the North American operations essentially said, at 9 times out of 10, it would be at no cost to the owner. So I mean, it's a fascinating vehicle. I started to get used to the steering over the course of the day, and I don't know. I like it. I think it looks quirky. It's an interesting, comfortable ride. It had excellent visibility out of all of the windows. I mean, getting in and out of the vehicle at 5 feet tall was a little bit difficult. And the grab handle is in an awkward location. I would like to see it on the A-pillar, but instead I was just like grabbing the steering wheel and kind of pulling myself in. So this is one of the accessories you can buy is running boards. And I would, if that was going to be your everyday driver, you'd probably want to do that. Otherwise you're going to be like, getting some good arm muscles.
Yeah.
But
Kaylin says, get a running jump. Ken Nix is here. We love Ken Nix. He's a big channel supporter. Hey, Ken. I'm sure for those on the podcast listening to this, I'm showing off the interior now. And if you haven't seen this, it's on the website, pickuptrucktalk.com. You just search down, you'll find this interior photo Jill took. And there's a few key details here. First of all, there's a BMW shifter next to the mechanical four-wheel drive shifter, like the lever action four-wheel drive shifter. Again, people love this lever action stuff, and this is what this is, made to be robust. Also, you can't make it on the screen, but in the top left corner of that infotainment screen is the speedometer. It's not on the dash. The dash is full of warning lights, things that happens.
Yeah, warning lights, and if like what drive mode you're in, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right, and so they just kind of put it over there, which I know when Jill, you drove we drove this in Wisconsin with Mamba Rally with the Grenadier, and you were getting used to looking over at the speedometer. It looks a little distracting, but you looked over. So over the course of a day, did you find the speedometer distracting? Look over at it.
No, I mean, I didn't find it distracting, but I will say one of the one big problem that I found with this vehicle is that center screen is really shiny. And so if the sun is shining on it, like that speedometer is the only thing you can see. You can't really see any of the other gauges and controls. Like it's really hard to see your audio, which, by the way, somebody asked if it had Apple CarPlay. It does.
I was waiting for you to say something like that.
It does. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But it's hard to see in the controls on the right side of the screen. And so that was probably really one of the only true downers I found about this is the reflectivity. Is that a word? Reflectivity of the screen and the lack of being able to see what's going on there. And the screen that this is on right now, and again, if you're listening to the podcast, sorry, go to the website. But the screen that's on, like one of the things that it shows you is the degree of angle of your steering wheel. So your steering wheel has like that notch that says, it says wheel up, but because of the specific type of steering this is, like your wheel could be up and you're at like 33 degrees. So it's essentially telling you whether you will be turning if you go straight or, with the wheels up, or if you will actually be going straight.
Yeah, it's a fascinating vehicle. I mean, you have the tire in the bed, as you pointed out, is better for ground clearance. And they made there's a little notch that allows you to put the tire in the bed. It's made for that.
Yep.
And it's from an off-road, Rebel Rally situation, your experience there. How nice would it be to have a tire just right there? If something happens, just pull it right out, right?
Because, I mean, that thing's going to be like 70 pounds. That's going to be heavy. Can you imagine like having to get underneath the truck and like 70 pounds dropping on your face? So, I think like this is, I love that implementation of the spare tire. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quirky, but I think you and I were talking about it offline a little bit. And a lot of times when new vehicles come out like this, I don't always understand them. I don't understand, I'm just taking, you're like taking like, oh my gosh, like you're reading all these press releases, looking at the photos, like trying to figure this stuff out. Same thing happened to me with the Cybertruck. I didn't get it. I still don't quite get it, but I was trying to figure this stuff out. But then you said to me, and it's very clear when you said it, you said, look, this is basically being marketed towards a G-Wagon customer. Somebody who wants something unique, somebody who makes over $100,000 a year, maybe $200,000 a year, who's willing to put up with some of the weirdness of it or the quirkiness of it, but they want that. They want to stand out, and they want to have something that is just different. And that hit home with me. That was like, okay, now I can kind of put this into, because in North Shore, Chicago, if I recall, that's more of a ritzy neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And here's the thing. I mean, is it being marketed to that person? I don't know if that's actually correct, but I think that's the kind of person that's going to really be looking at it and buying it. But the intention is that whoever gets this vehicle would take it off-road because it is incredibly capable. And when we were off-road, like we were on washboard dirt roads, we did some rock crawling, and I was a passenger in the vehicle when it went up this hill with moguls, and it was so smooth. And I mean, it almost felt like we were driving on flat pavement. And I mean, I've never experienced anything like that before. I would say it's probably one of the best off-roading vehicles I've ever driven.
Yeah, I think the fun part for this is other automakers are watching this. If it starts selling, if it starts doing something, they will pilfer the ideas. They'll borrow different ideas. That they'll build something similar to it. It's just, or it won't take off. I don't know. It's fascinating. We just saw the news today that Fisker filed bankruptcy again and is going out of business again. But it's like all these little companies come out with stuff, and it either pushes the industry forward or makes some sort of change. I think it's healthy for the industry to have competition like this and see what sticks.
Yeah. And I mean, so the other thing that you have to keep in mind with this is not meant to be a 200,000 volume seller. Mm-hmm. Like, this is max capacity. So this is built in France. I think max capacity of the plant that they are building this in, like if they added extra shifts and all the things, is 50,000 units. And that's for global distribution.
Right.
And they said they're targeting 30,000 units. They probably won't hit that in the first year of production. And 50% of those vehicles will come, whatever they produce in the first year will probably come to the United States. So let's say they produce 30,000, which is their max capacity now, without adding extra shifts and staff and things like that. So say they build 30,000 vehicles, that's 15,000 vehicles that have the potential to probably come to the United States. That's not a lot.
No. So, I mean, I think you'll see this on the road and you're going to just go, what the heck was that? And then it's going to grab your attention. But I think it's going to be, slug bug yet red or something. It's going to be that one oddball driving around, which I think those customers, that's what they want. They want either that or they're venture ready people who want something, turnkey. Instead of building their own vehicles, have something turnkey ready to go. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting.
I enjoyed it. I think it, and somebody was like, well, quirky means, piece of poop. But I'm like, no, in my lexicon, that is not what it means. Quirky means interesting, unique, different. I didn't think that this was a piece of poop at all. I thought it was pretty great. I really liked it. Like I said, it's probably, and I've driven everything. I think I've driven pretty much everything. It's one of the best off-roading vehicles I've ever driven.
And that's the thing I tell people with this job. It's like you get 20 Camrys in a row, and then you get that one oddball. And sometimes you fawn over the oddball more in the Camrys, which is a difficult part of the job. But it's like, oh, it's just different. It's like, wow, that's just unique. It's different. You get excited about it, and that's what the Ineos is. It's something unique and different. And hopefully I get some time behind the Quartermaster at some point. And if they sell it, the great. If they don't, it's no skin off our back. But it's nice to see somebody push the industry in a different direction and try something different. Yep, I think that's really the best part of that. All right, this is about an hour. I think I'm ready to sit in my recliner. I can tell you, it's calling my name.
Ready for dinner. The question is, where's my husband?
I think that's the question most nights in the live streams.
Yeah, where's John now?
All right. Hey, make sure you check us out on the website. We talked about pickuptrucktalk.com. Articles over there. I did link to Jill's video that I'm hoping that she will put on the website as well, because I think I want to have that story in there. And so we'll have the information on there too, because it's it may not bug you. You may not care about CarPlay, but if you do get a car without CarPlay, you're going to care about that. You need her instructions. Trust me, it's more confusing than I could even imagine. Also check us out on what are we on? TikToks and Facebooks and Instagrams and all social medias of the world. Check us out over there. As always, thanks for watching. We will see you down the road.